Well, data-driven firms are 162% more likely to exceed revenue targets. But becoming a data-driven organization does not happen overnight. It is a process. Whichever way you slice it, surveys remain the best way to collect data. What better way to get insights into your customers' or employees' opinions than by asking them directly? That is why we have made holistic improvements to Zoho Survey. We have with us Sugandhan, a product expert, who will acquaint us with the new features of Zoho Survey. Over to you, Sugandhan.
Thank you, Rini. That was a wonderful start. And myself, Suganthan, I'm the product expert for the Zoho survey, and I've been with my team for the past 8 years, and we are in the business for like over a decade now. And we have come up with many features in the past, and we would like to showcase what we have done this year, 2022, and it's almost a wrap. So why not just throw some light on it? And to take it further, now I'll walk you through the next set of slides. And simultaneously, I'll also try to show in real time how that works so that you'll have a much better understanding. And as said before, feel free to let me know your questions via Q&A session so that myself and my team will be more than happy to answer all your queries. We have implemented the carry forward choices. Now, what exactly is a carry forward choices? When you have a question on your survey with multiple choice for reference, asking to select a particular option or a answer, considering like please choose the most favorite places you have been before, and we could have a list of options with few countries in it. So once they answer one or more than one answer in it, we can carry forward the mentioned choices to the next set of questions as an answer option to make it look more personalized or to follow up with the actual answers what they have given before. To give you a much better idea, we'll go through the next slide. So this is the example for it. So which of these countries have you visited? And the options are something like this: France, Italy, Brazil, England, German, Spain, and Portugal. So once they select France, Brazil, or Germany, we could set up a follow-up question like which one is your favorite? And the answer choices will be listed, only the ones they had chosen before. This is a very user-friendly way of having follow-up questions based on what they have asked before. To show it in real time, I'll switch my tabs between the actual survey account and the presentations. So I'll start sharing my screen. So this is the survey, which has the same set of questions as showed in the presentation. Now we have entered the answer choices like this. And for the next set of questions, like you can frame the question type like, please select the favorite country. And the answer choices, what you can do is you can click on the carry forward choices from the previous question, enable this, and select the question type. So I'll select my previous question, what I have already created, and choose the answer choices. So you can choose anything or how you want it to be, maybe the answer choices or not the answer choices. So we give you the varieties of options. For this particular use case, I'll choose the answer choices and click on save. To show it in real time, I'll go to the preview. And once I select the answers, my answer choices have been carried forward to the next set of questions. So that's how you play with the carry forward choices with the multiple choice, one answer question type. So this was one of the key features which we had implemented. And the next one would be the translation feature. We used translation for converting the actual survey from English to other languages using Google Translate. Now we have given more a cushion to it by adding few options and elements, like you can translate your own content rather than depending on a third party like Google. Maybe the few words could be mismatched, or there could be some grammatical errors, which you could be more expertise than the actual software. So we allow you to export the created survey from English as a spreadsheet. And from there, you can translate the content, and then you can upload it back to the Zoho Survey application to get the actual data in the translated language. To show it in real time, I'll get into the survey, and to translate the survey from English to other languages, we had that option under the advanced options drop down before, but now we have moved it to the settings tab. That's the second tab on the top. Over here, you can choose languages. Under language, you can select the default language on which the error messages or the pop-up notifications needs to be displayed. So English will remain to be my default language. And to translate into other languages, click on Add Language button and select your language. For reference, let's say I'd like to translate the survey into French. Click on French and choose Next. Over here, we give you this option. So we haven't removed the Google Translate. It's still there. You can click on Translate to modify the content into French. And obviously, you can preview it to see how that works. Whereas, if you'd like to do it in other way, instead of Google Translate, let's say Spanish, you can download the data from English into a spreadsheet by clicking on Download Resource. And once you do that, you can export the data from the export section of your account. So you can just go here and click on Download. Once the file is downloaded, open it up, and you have this option. So the content will be available in English, like you have created before, and you can modify the content appropriate to it in the very next column. So if you know Spanish, you can type it in Spanish right away, or you can utilize the Google Translate feature over here. So you can fill up all the available options over here in each column corresponding to each and every option. So this includes the error messages as well. So if they're going to click on continue or the next button, so including the name of the buttons, you can modify it in the appropriate languages. So once you do that, you can come back to your builder under the settings, languages. You can go to the add language, select the language, and click on continue so that you can upload the translated content by clicking on browse and select the file. So that will do the job. So this is another feature which we have done in terms of enhancements for the existing translate survey feature. The next one would be the NPS. We had NPS question before, but what we have done is we give you the options to upload a custom image instead of a regular smiley or a number. So you can differentiate yourself from a regular survey to get the right set of audience, or maybe to set the mood for the audience to rate how well you're doing or what kind of rating you prefer. So a simple example with a Mr. Bean. So if it's a sad face, maybe a sarcastic view, and a happy face with an excited view. So you can decide how you want it to be. It's just a sample and you can decide your own. And not just that, we also have implemented the average score for the NPS. So for each and every NPS question, we display the NPS score by default. But if you're going to have multiple NPS questions on your survey, Then the very first section on the summary of reports will be the average NPS score. To show it in real time, I'll switch tabs to my survey account. And I'll get into the data. So this is the summary of responses. And you see the very first column to be the overall NPS. So the NPS will show you the net promoter score. So for me, it's like minus 77. So I have a very poor rating for the survey what I've done. So in order to have that average NPS, make sure you have more than one NPS question on your survey form. So this is the NPS question. And if I enable the stats, I'll be able to see the stats of every single NPS over here. So if you don't want to get into every single NPS, you can directly check for the overall NPS score. So that saves time for you and the job is done. The next feature is grouping the logics. Now, logics are one of the most key features when we talk about online survey compared to the traditional surveys, that is the paper survey. So you can decide what you need to ask based on your answer choices. So if you get a positive rating, you can ask for a review, like please review us on Google, or you can redirect them to your website to give a positive rating and so on. But whereas if someone is not happy with your service, you need to understand what went wrong. So decide what kind of questions needs to be followed based on the logics. So this is what we had all these years. But now what we have done is we allow you to combine multiple question answers to decide the next set of questions. So from condition 1 or condition 2, if either one matches and the condition 3 matches, then you can decide what question it needs to be. So in real time, question 1 could be like, how happy are you? And the answer choices could be something like uh, positive or negative to positive. So if they give a positive rating, and the follow-up question to that could be like, please let us know if you'd like to refer your friends and family uh, to our company or something. So based on both these answers, if they choose yes for this and they are happy, then you can redirect them to a Google review. Whereas if they are not happy, or maybe they are just moderate with any one of those, you can decide to see what went wrong, what needs to be improved with the follow-up question. So the grouping logics will work, will do magic for you in terms of identifying what needs to be asked based on the answer choices. So in terms of grouping, let me just go to my survey. So let's say I have these questions, like please select your favorite country and which of the countries you have visited. So based on this, let's say I have an NPS question. Uh, I need to set up an NPS question only when someone chooses France for both these question types. In order to do that, I have to get into this question and select on display logic. Let me just delete this so that you don't get confused. So the option would be something like, select your first question, and if the answer is equal to France, okay, plus the second question if the answer is again equal to France. I need to display this NPS question only when someone chooses France as the favorite country they had visited. So by doing this, I have set up a logic, and once you add a logic, you get this icon. That's just for your reference. Now let me go to the preview to show how that works. In our survey, we had 3 questions, but I just see the first question due to the logics being set up. So only after answering this, I'll have this next set of questions. And only if I choose France, the NPS question should come up. So let's try by selecting any other options to see if that comes, but no. But if I select France, I get the NPS question and I can submit it. So that's the grouping logic, what we have done for this year. And the next would be to set up quotas. Now, quotas is a way to determine what you need from which particular source. Now, we had the option to restrict the respondents based on date or the overall count, but not per mean or median. For reference, let's say I have a survey which asks for a gender, male and female, and you just want 50 responses for each category, like for male, female. So before we didn't have that option. Now you can set up a quota, like add a number like 50 for the male and add a number of 50 for the female. So once the limit reaches, you can decide whether you want to still continue as collecting the responses for the 51st person, or you want to terminate them, or you just don't want to open the survey. We give you these options by default. Similarly, you can use this quota for distributing your surveys on various modes, since uh, social media is a huge boon in this decade and everyone uses social media. So you can share your surveys on Facebook, on Instagram, or on LinkedIn, and so on. There are varieties of options available, maybe Twitter as well. So you can decide how many responses you need per mode. So you can set up the quota for 500 responses in Facebook, whereas in LinkedIn, or 50 responses in Instagram. So you can decide what is the total count you need. So based out of that, you can do the research and improve what needs to be done. Or the actual purpose of the survey could be determined based on these quotas that's been set. And the quota could be set for any conditions what you have on your survey form in terms of the questions or in terms of the number of links you generate via the collectors. You can set up the quotas. The quota option will be available under two ways. So by default, we provide the quota for your entire survey. Under the launch tab, you have the collector quota. You can decide the total number of the number of responses you need for the entire survey over here by clicking on some random numbers, that's your choice, and click on save. So this is one way. The other way would be under the settings to add conditions to the quota. So go here. We have three quotas over here. The survey quota is like to limit the total number of responses you receive, whereas the collector quota is per collector. Now, collector is nothing but this is one of the links for your survey, which could be used to share in Facebook for reference. Maybe if you'd like to share another link in Instagram, you can create a collector over here, and this will give you another link. Why do you need to create multiple links is you can create filters within the reports to identify the responses are from which particular mode. So in future, you can decide based on the traffic you receive, you can determine what is the most suited social media platform you may need to prefer for your future campaigns. So this will be the collectors, and the conditional quota is the one which I referred with the example. So let's say gender, and the quota limit for 50 for each gender. So if I have a question in my survey asking for a gender, then I can add a condition. For reference, let's say now I'm going to add a quota of 50 responses for the country that is equal to France. So I can do that. So I don't need more than 50 responses from the country of France. And similarly, you can create any number of conditional quotas in a single survey by adding the required number of conditions. And you have these options to close the survey right away or terminate the responses if someone is going to answer beyond 51, or you want to collect continuing the responses to have it as a backup. So these are the conditional quotas, the survey quota, and the collector quotas, what we have. And this is something new from this year. The next thing would be the SMS distribution. This is our latest update. So we did support multiple ways of distributing the surveys via email, via website. Maybe you can just host your surveys, embed your surveys in a website, or share it via social media. But when you want to reach the users without an internet connectivity, you can send it out via SMS. But of course, you need the internet connection to answer the survey link. But in order to notify them, the SMS could be more relevant to run out campaigns, promotional campaigns. or maybe you'd like to get a customer satisfaction survey, the SMS could do the job for you. We have integrated with Clickatil, SMS Magic, and Twilio. So you can use any of these platforms of your choice to distribute the surveys created via Zoho Survey application to reach out to your audience. The SMS integration will be available under the Launch tab of the survey form. Under the email, under the distribution, you can click on SMS and create your SMS over here. The next thing would be to restrict the respondents based on the IP address. So let's say you are sharing the survey to your employees and you don't want your employees to answer away from your office. So you want them to answer the survey within the organization. You can enable the IP address restriction. So you can determine on which particular IP address or the IP address range the survey could be accessed. You can enter that and you can restrict the respondents to not answer beyond that. Or maybe you don't want them to answer within the office. You can also set up like do not allow to open the survey if the IP address matches. By default, we do collect the IP address of the respondents. So you can determine how that works. The IP address restrictions will be available under the Launch tab. Just a minute. Over here under the restrictions, you can click on Enable and select, you can enter the IP address separated by a comma or one below the other. And the options you have like allow or do not allow based on these IP address. So that's how you can utilize the IP address restriction. And just a few more. We have introduced dedicated offline application for the Zoho survey. Before we had offline applications for the Mac, that's for the iPads, but for the Android, we have done it this year. So you can utilize this, and the advantage of using an offline application compared to the offline survey link is there is zero chance of losing the data. Whereas if you utilize the uh, general offline web link, then what can happen is if the cookies erased by accident, or if the cookies were overloaded and the browser is going to clear the cookies automatically, the data could be lost. So to avoid that, we have introduced the offline application, which could be utilized for the mobile and for the tablet devices. It's also way more helpful when you're going to do door-to-door surveys by having agents for it. So you can just install the application on the tablet or on the mobile device, and they can just go from there. And all the response collection will be uploaded automatically if you enable an option of auto upload. So the job is easy for you to keep a track, and the data will also be very safe. You can check for the offline Android application if you have an Android device by just going to your Play Store, and you can just download the application. We would recommend to use this if you're planning to do any door-to-door surveys, or maybe a kiosk mode, or maybe you would like to display a tablet on your stove to gather feedbacks when you don't expect internet connectivity around the year or around the clock. You can utilize this wonderful feature. And almost to the last, we have created the reports. Reporting functionality was there before, but the charts, what we generate, were predefined. So we allow you to decide what kind of chart you need, from a pie chart to a bar chart. That was also available. But what is new is the colors, what it displays. So maybe you could be very keen with some colors, which you could use traditionally, and maybe we suggested a different color. So you can always select the colors what you need from the color palettes and decide what color needs to be chosen for every single choice. And we also support to export the individual responses as a PDF, as a group export, not every single responses one by one. Maybe you had 500 responses on a survey, so it was really difficult for you to click on download every single time. So we allow you to group it up, and export up to 500 responses in a single click. We have the market research panel in our application. So what we have done is, like, when you purchase a response from us, we used to cater it to the right set of audience and we wait for the responses. But for now, what we have done is we don't wait till the actual responses come. We circulate it to a much wider audience if we feel the bandwidth is less than the traditional bandwidth. So for reference, let's say we give you an estimated time of 5 days to collect 100 responses based on the demographics we have chosen. Then if we don't receive 100 responses or maybe 50 responses in a couple of days, then we think like, okay, it could take more than 5 days. To avoid that, we clone the surveys and we distribute it to a wider set of audience who match the demographics what you were looking for to get the 100 set of responses as per the promised date and time. So if it's 5 days, we usually get it done by 3 days to make sure you have the right set of time to analyze the data, what you have received, and if there's any mismatch or maybe you want to reconcile something, we can get it done for you at free of cost. So that's something which we have done new for the market research. And finally, the strong data security. So it's really important to keep your data safe. And in order to do that, we have given you the options as timeline logs. So timeline logs in sense like we can see for every single responses what kind of changes have been made to it. Maybe the respondents could have updated their data, or maybe yourself you could have made some changes to the answers. And when you have a large set of data, you may not remember for which particular um, response you would have made the changes before. So keep a track what was done. We have introduced the feature as time logs that will be available under the individual responses. So I'll just open the survey again. Maybe there are some internet connectivity issues from my end. I'm not sure. So I'll just try to open it up again, or maybe I'll switch tabs with a different system to show how that works. So timeline logs is one of the feature. Okay, it seems to be loading. You can decide the color palette, maybe if you want a different color, or you can just select it from here. Or if you know the RGB values of a color, very specific color you're looking for, you can just enter the value and the colors will be listed. So you can decide what color needs to be displayed for this particular one. So by this, you can select your color palette. This was the options we give you to decide what kind of colors you need to display for these charts. And the other one was the individual responses to export, to bulk export technically. So you can do the export as a PDF, and you can decide the range from 1 to 500 and export the data. So all the exports will reach out to this particular folder, and from here you can export the data. So it will be available over here for the next 15 days, and you can download it anytime. But any days after 15, then you need to just come back to your reports and export it again to fall it under the concern folder. So these were the two enhancements on the reports, and the timeline logs will be under the individual responses. So click on the three dots over here and choose timeline. Over here, you'll get to know the date and time when the data has been received. And if there were any modifications made to that, that will also be listed one below the other. So that's the timeline logs. And audit logs is very specific to the enterprise plan of Zoho Survey. Now, with the enterprise, we support multiple user license. And as an admin, it could be really difficult to see what were the options done by the other users in the account. So in order to keep a track, we have created a dedicated section as audit logs. So you can keep a track about all the users in your account to see what they had done, what kind of changes were made to your surveys, or any new surveys were created. Every single thing will be recorded over there with the date and time. And of course, you can even export it to gather the data and for all kind of auditing purpose in terms of the actions made by other users. it will be really helpful for you. So this is exclusive for the enterprise users, whereas for the Plus, Pro, or for the free plan, this will not be available. And we are very happy to announce that Zoho Survey is HIPAA compliant. So you can have all your sensitive data related to your health will be protected over here. And that not just this, of course, all the data are protected, but anything which is way more sensitive in terms of health, that will be protected for sure. So this is one of the clause which we wanted to achieve for a very for a couple of years, but we were able to do it this year. And we'll also come up with many more security features in our upcoming updates. So that's all about the features, what we had done for this years. I mean, these were the key features. So just to give you an information, like we had 37 updates till date, and we expect a couple of more updates before this year. So you can look into every single actions that's been made, what kind of updates have been received right from your survey account. Just go to your Zoho Survey account and click on your profile picture on the top right, and you can search for what's new. So by clicking on this, you'll have a clear-cut idea of what has been achieved all these years from 2022 and from the start. So these are the options available. What we have done, you can just go through our help documents to see what it is, to identify what exactly is that feature, or maybe you need help, you can reach out to us via support@zohosurvey.com. So we are here 24/5 to answer all your questions via email, and if required, we can even schedule a call for you to answer all your questions. So the next would be the Q&A.
Please follow us for product updates, industry updates, best practices, and more. We appreciate you sticking with us. And let me display our social handles. These are our social handles. Once again, thank you for sticking with us. We wish you all a very happy holiday season. Take care and ciao.